In today's video, I'm going to show you a few best practices inside of Airtable that will help you avoid a Zap disaster. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Connor, and on this channel I help people who cannot code build their own online businesses with no-code tools like Webflow, Airtable, and Zapier. Now, if you've watched videos on this channel before, you'll know that I'm a very heavy Airtable and Zapier user, and a lot of the workflows that I have set up get triggered when new records are moved into a special view that I have set up inside of Airtable. Now, a risk that you run sometimes when you are working on bigger projects that have a lot of different views is that you accidentally change the filter of a particular view, and if that view is still connected to an active Zap inside of Zapier, you can accidentally start that workflow for all the records that move into that view. So in today's video, I'm going to show you what I consider best practices when it comes to managing your Airtable bases to ensure that filters inside of specific views don't accidentally get changed by either you or your clients. But before we get into it, if you aren't already and you are interested in learning a little bit more about no-code, then subscribe to the channel. Also, I would very much appreciate if you could leave me a quick like on this video. It helps spread this video through YouTube. But without further ado, let's get into the first point. So first of all, let me start off by illustrating what the exact issue is that can happen when you don't work with specific filters. So in here, we've got a database with all of these different restaurants that I might want to send to a Webflow project to add to my CMS. And the way that I send those particular records is when a new record is added, it gets moved into the needs review stage. And then when I decide to move it to Webflow or whatever other platform I'm using, I can just go ahead and change the status to approved. From there, what happens is it is moved into this particular view here, and then inside of Zapier, I start a workflow that starts going through all the different action steps that are required in order to send this data to whatever tool I'm using. So this, in my opinion, is hands down the most effective way to manage workflows and to basically use Airtable as your main control center for managing data and sending them between different platforms. But one thing that can happen when you are in Airtable is that sometimes someone might want to look through a particular view inside of Airtable, and they then accidentally decide to remove a filter. Now, what happens is this view here is still attached to Zapier, and now by removing that filter, you've moved all of these records into this view, which will now mean that Zapier will consider those records as records that you want to then send to whatever tool you're using. Obviously, that is not always what is intended, so what we want to do is we want to set up some systems that make sure that you don't accidentally remove a filter or change a certain type of setting that then accidentally sends the wrong data to your platform like Webflow. So there are a few different ways to do it. The first way, or the way that I started out, was I actually just added an emoji to views that were connected to an active workflow. So what I'd do is I'd just jump in here and I would add a lightning bolt. That way I'd know that a view that has a lightning bolt attached to it could not be changed because it is currently attached to a Zap. Now, a new feature that Airtable launched that I find really useful is something called sections. So what you can do now is you can actually break up all of your different views into different sections. So what I like to do now is I like to add a section and just call it active workflows. Now, inside of those active workflows, you can start moving in all of the workflows that are currently connected to different Zaps. This just makes it a lot easier to see what views can be changed and what views can't be changed. Now, this works perfectly fine for me because I kind of understand the effect of changing a filter inside of Airtable. But if you are working with clients and you want to add an extra layer of security, then you can use something that's called locked views. So the way that locked views works is it basically tells people that a certain view can't be changed. So the way that you do it is you just click on this icon here, and then you can switch it from collaborative view, which basically means that anyone who you've invited to use the space can come in and change record, to locked view. Now, in this locked view, you can basically write an explainer as to why this is locked. So what I like to do is you can't change this view because it is connected to an active Zap. That way, as soon as people start to come in and try to change certain records, they won't be able to do it. So I'm still able to do it because I'm the admin, but if someone else comes in who doesn't have admin privileges, they won't be able to change anything. It will come up with that particular pop-up that basically tells them that that particular view can't be changed. And that is just a really great way to ensure that, again, you don't accidentally trigger any workflows. Now, I'm aware that this is a very niche problem, but if you are thinking about building an online marketplace or even just looking at managing a lot of data that are connected to different workflows in automation tools like Integromat or Zapier, then it definitely pays to make sure that you have these types of systems in place before your bases get really big, because as soon as something like this happens, it can accidentally cause a whole bunch of issues that you couldn't have foreseen. So this is what I've got set up in the Unicorn Factory New Zealand. You can see I have a lot of different views, but I have now managed to filter out all of my workflows that are currently connected to Zaps, meaning that I know that under no circumstances can I change these particular views. Also created different sections for different views that I needed. So if I need an overview of the different membership types that someone's on, if I want to influence my ranking system, then I can basically create special views, only display the particular fields that I need, and then put them into that particular section, which will make it a lot easier to find. But yes, that is pretty much it. It is not that much to do, but it is pretty important. I've had a few people reach out to me explaining what happened, and oftentimes the removing or changing of particular filters inside of views connected to Zap is what ends up creating a huge mess with all the different platforms that you're using. So take the time, create some nice sections, add some locked views, and you'll save yourself a lot of heartache going forward. But that's it. I have nothing else to add. Of course, subscribe if you haven't already. Like this video if it was useful. Other than that, I'll see you back here for the next one.